The illusion of free will. The question of whether humans possess free will has been a philosophical and scientific puzzle for centuries. While the intuitive sense of having control over our choices and actions seems undeniable, deeper scrutiny reveals a complex interplay of biological, psychological, and environmental factors that challenge the notion of free will as traditionally conceived. Determinism and the illusion. One of the primary arguments against free will is determinism, the idea that every event, including human actions, is determined by preceding events or conditions, often in predictable ways. According to determinism, if we could perfectly understand the state of the universe at any given moment and the laws governing its evolution, we could theoretically predict all future events, including human decisions. This viewpoint posits that our actions are shaped by factors beyond our conscious control, such as genetics, upbringing, societal influences, and even random environmental factors. Neuroscience provides compelling evidence for determinism by demonstrating how brain activity precedes conscious decision-making. Studies using brain imaging techniques suggest that the brain makes decisions before individuals become aware of them consciously. This implies that our perceived choices may merely be post hoc rationalizations of neural processes that have already been set in motion. Psychological influences. Psychological research further challenges the idea of free will by highlighting the powerful influence of unconscious processes on decision-making. Concepts like cognitive biases, conditioning, and the influence of emotions reveal how our choices can be swayed by factors outside of our awareness or direct control. For instance, marketing strategies often exploit these biases to influence consumer behavior, demonstrating how seemingly autonomous decisions can be manipulated by external stimuli. Philosophical implications. Philosophically, the illusion of free will poses profound implications for moral responsibility and personal identity. If our actions are determined by factors beyond our control, can we be held morally accountable for them? Traditional notions of justice and punishment rely on the assumption that individuals have the capacity to freely choose their actions and thus deserve praise or blame accordingly. However, if free will is an illusion, this raises challenging questions about the fairness and effectiveness of our ethical frameworks. Compatibilism. Some philosophers propose compatibilism, a view that seeks to reconcile determinism with some notion of free will. Compatibilists argue that even if our actions are determined by prior causes, we can still be considered to have free will if we act in accordance with our desires and intentions without external coercion. However, this definition of free will differs significantly from the traditional libertarian view that requires absolute freedom from causal influences. While the feeling of free will is deeply ingrained in human experience, mounting scientific and philosophical evidence suggests that it may be an illusion. Deterministic processes at the neurological and psychological levels challenge our intuitive sense of autonomy and agency. Nevertheless, the debate continues, with implications reaching into fields as diverse as ethics, law, and theology. Understanding the illusion of free will prompts us to reconsider how we perceive ourselves and our place in a world governed by complex causal relationships. This brief exploration touches upon key arguments and implications of free will being an illusion, drawing from scientific, philosophical, and psychological perspectives. Certainly, let's delve deeper into the illusion of free will, exploring additional perspectives and implications. Challenges to free will, cultural and religious perspectives. Beyond scientific and philosophical arguments, cultural and religious perspectives also contribute to the discourse on free will. Many religious traditions posit the existence of free will as fundamental to concepts of morality, sin, and divine judgment. The idea that humans have the ability to choose between right and wrong is central to notions of personal responsibility and spiritual growth. However, the deterministic view challenges this by suggesting that even religious decisions may be influenced by factors beyond conscious control, such as upbringing or cultural norms. Emerging scientific insights. Advancements in neuroscience and psychology continue to provide insights into the mechanisms underlying decision-making, often complicating the traditional understanding of free will. For example, experiments measuring brain activity have shown that decisions can be predicted before individuals are consciously aware of making them. This raises questions about the nature of consciousness itself and whether our sense of agency is merely a post hoc narrative constructed by our brains. Ethical and legal ramifications. The illusion of free will has significant implications for ethics and law. If individuals are not truly free to choose their actions, the basis for moral judgments and legal responsibility becomes uncertain. Legal systems traditionally assume that individuals are responsible for their actions and can be held accountable for wrongdoing. However, if our decisions are determined by factors beyond our control, this raises doubts about the fairness of punitive measures and calls for a reconsideration of how justice is administered. Implications for personal identity. Our sense of self is intricately tied to the belief in free will. The idea that we are autonomous agents capable of making meaningful choices shapes our personal narratives and identities. If free will is an illusion, it challenges the coherence of our self-concept and forces us to confront the possibility that our lives are shaped more by external forces than by our own volition. Philosophical responses and debates. Philosophers continue to grapple with the implications of determinism and the illusion of free will. Some advocate for revised notions of free will that accommodate deterministic principles, while others argue for the preservation of a more traditional, libertarian conception. The debate remains vibrant and multifaceted, reflecting ongoing attempts to reconcile scientific findings with deeply held intuitions about human agency. Conclusion. Navigating the illusion. In conclusion, the illusion of free will challenges fundamental assumptions about human nature, agency, and responsibility. While scientific evidence and philosophical arguments suggest that our perceived autonomy may be illusory, the concept of free will remains deeply embedded in cultural, religious, and legal frameworks. Navigating this complexity requires careful consideration of emerging scientific insights alongside ethical and existential reflections on the nature of human existence. Whether free will is ultimately an illusion or a nuanced phenomenon yet to be fully understood, its exploration continues to provoke profound questions about the nature of consciousness and our place in the universe. This expanded discussion further explores the multifaceted nature of the illusion of free will, touching on cultural, religious, scientific, ethical, and philosophical dimensions.